you like the daisy knot pattern and want some ideas on how to incorporate it into a macrame project? If so, keep watching. Nicole here from Bochiknot Macrame, and in this video we will be going over 5 different projects on how you can incorporate the daisy knot pattern. The daisy knot pattern is a fun, cute, versatile knot pattern that you can incorporate into almost any macrame project. There are actually several ways you can make the daisy knot pattern, and I've made a separate video on that to show you a few different ways to make the daisy knot pattern. If you're interested in that video, I'll link it up here and also in the description below. But if you're ready to just dive right in and choose a project to make incorporating the daisy knot pattern, we've got 5 different ideas in this video. From headbands to keychains to plant hangers, these projects are so much fun to make. And without further ado, let's jump right in. Listed here are the materials and supplies you will need for this pattern, along with the suggested cord lengths. For this project, I'm using 4mm braided cord from our rainbow cord line in the colors Biscuit and Cappuccino. What makes this braided cord different than other braided cords is that there's no extra cord in the center. As you can see, it is hollow, which makes it more flexible and easy to knot with. And a big bonus with using braided cord is that you'll get nice, neat knots every time. We will be incorporating beads into our pattern, and I'll be using these 14mm gold beads with a 7mm large hole. You'll also need a headband. This headband is approximately 1 inch thick, and it's literally just a simple headband with some white fabric on top. If you're interested in any of the materials and supplies I've used here, I'll post links in the video description below. The first part of the pattern, you'll require a long strand of cord, and you're going to be wrapping it around the headband and gluing it onto the headband. Now, the strand of cord I used is approximately 400 centimeters, but the easiest way to do this is just to not cut the strand of cord at all and just wrap it around while pulling on the cord from the roll itself. That way you can use the exact amount of cord required to wrap around the entire headband. So the 400 centimeters is just an estimate, but I recommend wrapping it around from the roll itself. So as you can see here, we took the end and we glued it to the inside underneath the headband. And then we're just going to add a little bit of glue to the front, and then we're going to start wrapping it around from the bottom all the way to the other side. So when you start on one end, we're just going to add a little bit of glue on the front and the back side so that the cord stays put. Once you are a few wraparounds through, I would just add glue to one side. The key here is to add as little glue as possible to prevent it from being too heavy. So that's why we are just adding a little bit of glue on each side right now, but eventually what we're going to do is only add glue to the back side. Keep wrapping the cord around the headband until you reach the other side. Once you reach the other side, to seal off the ends, we're just going to dab a bit of glue at the bottom, and then we're going to cover it with the end of the cord. And we are now done with the base part of the pattern, and now we can add the little daisy pattern at the top. What we're going to do now is take a second color cord, and we're going to take 2 strands of 330 centimeter long cords. We're going to measure it one end to 110 centimeters, and we're going to hold that spot. We're going to flip the cords so that both of the center cords are the 110 centimeter long cords, so the slightly shorter cord ends, and then the outer left and right cords are the longer cord ends. So the shorter cord ends, outer is the longer cord ends. Now we are going to take a 300 centimeter long color number 1 cord, and we're going to skip about 1.5 inches down from one side of the headband. And we're just going to wrap it around like so, and then crisscross the cords at the front. We're going to make sure the cord ends here are matched first before they're crisscrossed so that both sides are even. Then taking the right loop from the other color cords, we're going to attach it onto the crisscross cords with a reverse lark's head knot on the right side. So we took the right section and made a reverse lark's head knot on the right side. And then now we're going to take the left section for a reverse lark's head knot on the left side. So once you are done making these reverse lark's head knots, you should still have longer cords on the outside and shorter cords on the inside. Now pull on both anchor cord ends to tighten. Now, to start our first daisy pattern, take that second cord from the right as a working cord for a vertical lark's head knot on the right side. So take the cord under, over, and through the right loop, then under and over and through the right loop. Repeat for one more vertical lark's head knot underneath. Then on the left side, we're going to do the same thing for 2 vertical lark's head knots. Take the second cord from the left, go under and over and through the left loop, and then go under and over and through the left loop, referring to the working cord as the cord that's moving through these knots. And now what we're going to do is with our 2 middle cords, we're going to thread a large hole bead through them. Now, if you are using another type of 4mm cord like single strand or 3-ply, a 7mm hole may not work nicely for you. The only reason why these 4mm braided cords work well for a 7mm hole is because it's hollow on the inside. So there's actually a lot of room to work with a 7mm hole. I'd recommend, if you are using single strand or 3-ply, to use a bead with at least an 8mm hole so you can fit 2 strands of cords nicely through. Now what we're going to do to close off this daisy pattern is we're going to crisscross the anchor cords on top of one another, then take that far right cord, make a half hitch knot through those 2 crisscross cords, and then take that far left cord and make a half hitch knot through the 2 crisscrossed anchor cords. Now with the middle 2 cords, we're going to wrap it underneath, above, and through the middle, pulling down the cords from behind. Then pull on the anchor cords on both the left and right sides, and also the vertical cords at the bottom to tighten this first daisy knot. Once done, take those anchor cords to the back, wrap it around, and bring it back on the other side. This is how we're going to get the daisy knot pattern to stay onto the headband. So once you bring the cords back to the other side, we're going to start our second daisy knot pattern by crisscrossing the anchor cords, and then we're going to start off the pattern just like how we had ended the daisy knot pattern above, by taking the far right and left cords for half hitch knots on both sides, and then taking the middle 2 cords to bring it up for half hitch knots in the middle. And now we can finish off the remainder of the daisy pattern just like how we had done the pattern above. As you can see here, I made a total of 3 daisy knot patterns, and we're just going to keep repeating this pattern all the way to the other side. I made a total of 12 daisy knot patterns, and that should get you close towards the end of the other side of the headband. Now to close off the ends of the daisy pattern, we are going to take those 4 cords in the middle, so not the anchor cord ends on both sides, and we're going to snip off the excess cord ends. Then to hold the ends in place, we are going to dab a bit of glue on those cord ends. Once the daisy flower is sealed at the ends, we are going to take the anchor cords to the back side of the headband, and we're going to cut off some of the excess cord ends there at the back, so that all we're left with is enough cord ends to fuse the ends together on the back side. So as you can see, I've left a bit of cord ends left on both sides. That's because what we're going to do is we're going to dab a bit of glue and attach one end, and if there's too much cord, we're just going to cut it off. The cord end should sit nicely to the middle of the back side. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other end. Dab a bit of glue and then attach the end to the back side of the headband and then cut off any excess cords there. So as you can see, we're left with just the right amount of cords on both sides as we're fusing them together on the back side. And there you go, there you have it. We are now complete with our daisy headband pattern with beads. For this pattern, you will need some 1mm string and some 5mm beads with a 3mm hole. This string is our 1.5mm 2-ply string from our rainbow cord line. I'm using a light pink color for the daisies and then a green color for the anchor cords inside the daisy and also for the square knots. I find 1mm string is a great size for jewelry so that you have a nice small micro macrame bracelet. I will also be using these small 5mm diameter beads with 3mm hole. If you're interested in any of these materials, I'll post links to them in the video description below. To begin, we are going to take our 2 strands of 70cm long string in the first color, and on one end, we're just going to tie an overhand knot. Now we're going to crisscross these cords on top of each other so that you have a little loop at the bottom. Then with 2 strands of 200cm long color number 2 cords, we're going to fold each one in half and attach them onto the bottom loop here with reverse lark's head knots. You can see that we have a certain amount of space between the overhand knot at the top and where we started the pattern here. Because we are making an adjustable bracelet, you do have to leave a certain amount of space there. Recommended space is approximately 9 centimeters. We are going to start on the right side first with the right 2 cords. So I'm just going to separate out the left 2 cords and the right 2 cords. With the right 2 cords and using the green cord here always as the anchor cord, so the far right cord, we're going to take that second cord from the right as a working cord for 2 vertical lark's head knots. When making vertical lark's head knots, you start with over through the right, and then you finish off with under the anchor cord and through the right. If you've made the knot correctly, you should see a small little loop on the right side. And then now we're going to repeat that same pattern again. Now with the left 2 cords, we're also going to make 2 vertical larkset knots. Start by going over through the left and then under and through the left, and repeat. Now with the middle 2 cords, we are going to thread 1 bead through. Now we're going to crisscross the green cords, and then now with all of the 4 remaining pink cords, we're going to make half hitch knots onto the middle anchor cords. So taking the far right cord, bring it over and through the right side for a half hitch knot. Then do the same thing on the left side. Then with the middle 2 cords, we're just going to split them in the middle, bring them over through the middle hole and pulling the cord ends to the bottom. To fully tighten the pattern, pull on the anchor cords on both sides and then re-tighten the vertical pink cords. Now we take the green cords as working cords here for a square knot with all of the pink cords in the middle as anchor cords. And now we start this pattern all over again by crisscrossing the green cords on top of each other. Then attach all 4 vertical pink cords onto the anchor cords with half hitch knots. And now you can finish off the rest of the daisy pattern just like how we had completed it above. Now that we have made 2 daisies, continue repeating the same pattern for a total of 8 daisies. Now we're ending the last daisy without a square knot. The rest of the daisies have square knots in between. And then you just want to check here just to make sure that the bracelet fits all around your wrist. So it should fit nicely. If there's still a small little gap left, that's okay. We will be adding a small pattern there so that the bracelet is adjustable. But if you do want to make a larger size bracelet, you can continue adding 1 or 2 or 3 more daisies until you have a comfortable bracelet length. There is enough cord length here to make a few more daisies. For now, what I'm going to do is with the pink ends at the bottom, I'm going to cut off a 50 centimeter long end. I'm just going to take both cord ends and cut off 50 centimeters. Save the 50 centimeter ends for the next part. And now what we're going to do here is cut off all of the remaining pink cords, leaving about half a centimeter of cord ends left. Now use the glue to glue the ends to the back side of the daisy pattern. Once done, tie an overhand knot on the opposite end, leaving around the same amount of space as the end we had started off with. And then now we're going to overlap the ends on top of each other. And then with the 50 centimeter scrap cord, we're just going to bring the middle of that cord to the back of the anchor cords here, and we're going to make 5 consecutive square knots. So we're using the green cords as the anchor cords, the pink cords as the working cords for 5 square knots here. Once done, cut off the excess cord ends from the square knot pattern and then glue the ends to the back of the square knot pattern. Do be careful you don't accidentally glue these ends to the green cords, because then the green cords can get stuck, which would make the adjustable portion of this bracelet not work.
Trim off the remaining cord ends from the bracelet, and you are now complete with this daisy pattern bracelet with beads.
And here are the materials and supplies I've used for this pattern along with the cord lengths you will need. I'll be using 3-ply cords for this particular pattern because they are nice and sturdy, and also because of the nice vibrant colors from this cord line. When you want a little bit more structure with your knots, I prefer using 3-ply, and this is what we're going to use. This is a 3-ply cord from our rainbow cord line. We will be using buttermilk and our sage green colors. You will also need 3 large hole beads. I'm using some fairly large beads at about 2 centimeters in diameter with a large hole. The hole itself is approximately 8 millimeters in diameter, so it should fit 2 strands of 4 millimeter cord easily. And then you will need a swivel lobster clasp or a key ring. If you're interested in any of the materials I've used within this tutorial, I'll have them linked in the video description below and also tagged below as well. I'll be using this cork macrame board to make this pattern, but tape and a stable surface like a desk is sufficient. So I'll be taking our color number 1 cord at 100 centimeters long, and I'll be making a lark's head knot onto the bottom of the lobster clasp. And we will be using the back side of this knot, so the reverse lark's head knot side, for the front side of the pattern. So now, to start on our first daisy pattern, we're going to overlap the 2 cords here, and then taking your 2 strands of 150 centimeter long color number 2 cords, we're going to attach them to the bottom 2 anchor cords here that are overlapped with reverse lark's head knots. Before you make the reverse lark's head knots, we're just going to measure one side to 40 centimeters first. Hold that part there. Make sure that the shorter 40 centimeter cord ends are in the middle. So I just flipped them so that the inner 2 cords now are the shorter cord ends, and then the outer 2 cords are the longer cord ends. So the middle here is the shorter 40 centimeter long ends, outer cords are the longer ends. So now we can, based on this positioning, attach them onto the bottom anchor cords with reverse lark's head knots. Once done, pull on the anchor cords to tighten all the way to the top. Now taking the right cord in the middle as a working cord, make 3 consecutive vertical lark's head knots onto the far right anchor cord. Now we're going to repeat the same thing on the left side for 3 vertical lark's head knots with the second cord from the left as the working cord.
Now with the middle 2 cords, we're going to thread the bead through. Then we're going to overlap the anchor cords and then take that far right working cord for a half hitch knot on the right, and then the far left cord for a half hitch knot on the left. Then take the middle right cord for a half hitch knot to the right, middle left cord for a half hitch knot to the left, and now we can pull on the anchor cords to tighten everything up, pulling on the vertical cords as well. And now we have completed our very first daisy pattern, and all we have to do is repeat this pattern 2 more times below. So color number 1 is always going to be the anchor cord throughout this pattern. Take the right cord underneath as a working cord for 3 consecutive vertical larkset knots, and then repeat the same thing on the left side. Finish off the left side, and then also thread the bead in the middle to finish off this daisy pattern. Repeat for 1 more daisy pattern underneath. Once you're done, we can gather the cord ends at the bottom, and then with a 50 centimeter long color number 1 cord, make a gathering knot at the bottom. Cut off the excess cord ends and then trim the cords at the bottom. Make sure to pull on the anchor cords underneath so that there are no scrunched up cords.
Listed here are the materials that I'm using for this particular pattern. You can mix and match the colors that you want. I'll be using 3 colors from our Lush line, and these are cords made from Egyptian cotton. So if you look closely, they are super fine fibers, giving off a nice shiny sheen to it, and it's super soft and easy to work with. I'll be using these 3 colors: Rose Dust, Buttercream, and Sage. And you'll also need a ring. I'm using this 2-inch wooden ring. If you're interested in any of the materials discussed, I'll link them in the description below. I'll be using the buttercream cords, so the buttercream / beige colored cords for the inner part of the daisy flowers. So taking the 2 strands at 250 centimeters long each, we're going to weave both strands through the ring. Make sure the ends are even on both sides, and then we're going to take our 2 strands of 450 centimeter long pink cords. We're going to weave 1 through each side of the beige cords. So the beige buttercream cords should be in the middle, and there should be 1 pink cord on the right and 1 pink cord on the left. Make sure the ends of the pink cords are even on both sides once you have weaved them through. Then take the long strands of 540 centimeter long green cords, and we're going to weave them on the outer left and right sides of the ring, also ensuring that the ends are even once you weave the cords through. Now, the placement of these cords here in its particular position is important because each color will have a particular role in making the daisy chain pattern. Once everything is nice and organized and the ends are nice and even, so all the green ends should match in length at the bottom, all the pink ends should match as well as the beige ends. Now I'll be using a pink strand of cord at 60 centimeters long to make a gathering knot, gathering the cords together right under the ring. You start by forming a loop on one end, holding it with one hand, then take the longer cord end and start wrapping it around the cords several times until you run out of room at the end of the cord. Then you take that cord end through the loop at the bottom and then you pull on the top end to tighten the knot. If you're interested, we do have a free 50 knots and sentence ebook available for download over on Bochiknot.com. It's a helpful guide to have by your side whether you are a beginner or advanced macrame artist. It's nice to have a knot guide with you just to refer back to on how to make certain knots if you forget, or to help inspire you to include some new knots you haven't used before in your projects. Now it's totally up to you what color cord you want to use. I've just chosen to use the pink cord to make this gathering knot. So if your cords happen to have changed positions after you had made the gathering knot, that's okay. Just make sure that you have laid out green, pink, beige, beige, pink, green on one side and then the same thing on the other. We will be using these 6 strands of cords here to make the daisy chain pattern. We are going to separate out the front 6 cords and then remove the back 6 cords for later, so that we can work with the front 6 cords first. Now taking the outer left and right green cords, we're going to fold them on top of one another. Then taking the right pink cord, we're going to make a half hitch knot with the green cords as anchor cords to the right. Then we're going to do the same thing with the left pink cord, make a half hitch knot over to the left. Now pull on the anchor cords to tighten. Now with the green cord on the right side, bring it down. Then with the pink cord, pay attention here as we make our first vertical lark's head knot. So we start by taking the cord, going over and through the loop to the right, and then using the same cord end, go under and through the loop to the right. Once done, you should see a little loop sitting on the right hand side, and that is the vertical lark's head knot. Now we're going to do the same thing on the left side, mirroring what we just did on the right for a vertical lark's head knot on the left side. And now this is the part where we add the beige cords to the center of the pattern. First, take the 2 pink cords in the middle and we're going to overlap them, crisscross them on top of each other. Take the middle 2 beige cords, make a half hitch knot to the right with the middle right cord, and then with the middle left cord, make a half hitch knot on the left side. Then pull on the anchor cords to tighten this knot. And now on the right side again, using the pink and green cords, we're going to make another vertical lark's head knot. So going over and through the loop, and then under and through the loop on the right side. Then repeat the same thing on the left side.
And then last but not least, crisscross the green cords, and then with the right pink cord, make a half hitch knot to the right side. And then with the left pink cord, make a half hitch knot to the left side. And we are now complete with our first daisy pattern. So in order to hide the beige and the pink cords for this chain section, we're going to use the pink and beige cords as anchor cords throughout this next part of the pattern, and the green cord as the only working cord on both sides. So taking the green cord from behind, we're going to go over and through the right, and then under and through the right for a vertical lark's head knot. Then underneath, add 3 more consecutive vertical lark's head knots. Now on the left side, take the green cord underneath and through the left side, and then we're going to make 4 consecutive vertical lark's head knots, mirroring what we did on the right side. Now our chain pattern is almost complete. Now we just have to form a chain here by starting our next daisy pattern. To do that, take the green cords, overlap them on top of one another. Take the pink cords, make a half hitch knot on both sides. We're starting this next daisy pattern the same way as we had started the other daisy pattern. And then now complete the rest of the daisy pattern the same way we had completed the daisy pattern right above. Now we're going to take the green cords underneath and through the left and right sides, and we're going to make 4 consecutive vertical lark's head knots on both sides. And now we have completed 2 sections of this chain. Make 3 more sections underneath, ensuring that you finish off the last section with the daisy knot pattern as well. Now we're going to take the cords at the back and make the exact same 5 daisy chain knot patterns. Once both sides are done, this is what the chain pattern should look like. And now we can close this plant hanger off with a basket at the bottom made with square knots. Now you can adjust this basket depending on how big your plant pot is. To start, we are going to take the 2 plant hanger posts side by side, and then with the middle 4 cords, so the 2 beige cords and the 2 pink cords, we're going to make a square knot several inches down. The approximate size of the plant pot holder I am making at the bottom will hold up to a 6 or 7 inch size pot. So if you want something a little bit bigger, you do have to bring your square knots down even further. And you can adjust accordingly once you have made the square knots on both sides. Try to fit in your plant pot and then adjust the square knots to loosen them up. So now on the other side, using the exact same cords, the 2 beige and the 2 pinks, make a square knot several inches down, keeping the same amount of space as the other side. Match the square knots on both sides to make sure that they are even. There's an even amount of space above. And if not, either tighten or loosen up the square knots so that they match. Once we are done the square knots on the sides, we are going to work underneath the daisy pattern. For this part, you will need an additional strand of cord, and I'm using a strand of beige cord at 125 centimeters long. We are going to loosen up the bottom pink part of the daisy pattern, and then we're going to weave the cord through. Match the ends of the cords on both sides, and then re-tighten the daisy knot at the bottom. Once that's done, we are going to take the green cords underneath the daisy knot pattern as working cords on both sides for a square knot with the beige cords as anchor cords. Now what we're going to do is bring the side sections down beside it, and then in that same spot we are going to make a square knot a few inches down. Then turn the pattern onto the other side and repeat the same pattern. Thread another cord through and then repeat for 2 square knots. Skipping a few more inches below, we are going to add a row of alternating square knots all around. Once you're complete with all of your square knots, this is the part where you can place your plant pot into the basket to make sure that it fits nicely. If it doesn't, if it's too small, loosen up the square knots, or if it's a little too big and it's a little too loose, you can tighten up your square knots. But if it's fine, like my pattern here, the plant pot fits nicely, we can gather the cord ends at the bottom. And with another strand of 60 centimeter long cord, we're going to make a gathering knot. Trim off the excess cords from the gathering knot and then also trim the fringe at the very bottom. And the pattern is now complete.
Listed here are the materials and supplies used for this pattern. You'll need some cord, a small ring, and some large hole beads. Here are the materials I'll be using for the pattern. On the right here, I have the 4mm single strand cord from our rainbow cord line, and it is in a natural color. This cord is really easy to work with, it's super sturdy, and it comes in a variety of different colors. Best part is it's made from environmentally friendly recycled cotton materials. These cords are available on Amazon, US and Canada, and Bochiknot.com. On the left here, you will need a 2-inch wooden ring for the handle of the plant hanger and some large hole beads. So I'm using these 2 centimeter diameter large hole beads with a 5mm hole. If you're interested in these, I'll link them in the video description below. To start off the pattern, we are going to take our 4 strands of 350 centimeter long cords, weave them through the ring, and make sure you match up the ends together so that they are even on both sides. So here, as you can see, all the cords grouped together at the end are the same length. And then now what we're going to do is separate out the cords into 4 sections in 4 different directions. So you're going to need a north, east, southwest direction with 2 strands of cord at a time. So I'll show you how I do that here. Try not to move the cords too much so that the ends are still even on all sides. And now we're ready to start our first crown knot. You can start anywhere from this crown knot. I'm going to start with the top section. I'm going to fold it down on the right side over the right section. Then take the right section, fold it across on the bottom over the 2 sections here. Then take the bottom section, fold it up to the top over the left 2 sections. And then lastly, we're going to take that left section and we're going to bring it over to the right, but this time we are going to weave it underneath that top section. So you see that there's a top loop here, and we're just going to take this section and we're going to weave it through to the right side. I'm just going to straighten things out to show you what it should look like. It should look like a square with the 4 sections weaved together, like so. And now all you have to do is tighten all 4 sides. And the first crown knot is now complete. I will walk you through this one more time.
You can lay out the sections into the same north, east, southwest sections again, but what we need to do is just make sure we overlap them with each clockwise fold over. As you can see, I folded my right cord to the bottom side over the bottom section, then folded the bottom section upwards, then I'm going to fold the left section over top, and then bring that top section down through the left loop. And then now you're ready to tighten this knot again. This is a reminder, if you do want nice neat knots to keep consistent tension, I like to keep them on a more tighter side, so ensure that you tighten them nice and keep that consistent tightness with every knot. We have made a total of 2 crown knots now, and we're going to make 22 more. Now we are ready to separate out the sections again, and we can add the daisy pattern at the bottom. Now this is the part where the length of the spacing between the crown knots and the start of this daisy knot, we do want to have consistent across all of the plant hanger posts. Measuring tape is helpful here. For the first one, I'm not going to quite measure it yet, just because you do have to adjust after anyways. So we're going to take those 2 cords several inches down, and we're going to overlap them on top of each other. Then with the 150 centimeter long cord, make a reverse lark's head knot onto those 2 overlapped cords. Then repeat once more right beside it. Once done with the anchor cords, we're just going to pull them on both sides to make sure that the space above is even. So as you can see, one side's more loose than the other. We're just going to keep adjusting the anchor cords on both sides to make sure that they're nice and straight. So here is where I'm going to measure my length of the spacing. So right underneath the crown knots and then to the start of the daisy knot. And you want to measure the length. So right now I have about 28 centimeters of spacing here, and I actually found that to be a little bit too long for the average 6 to 7 inch pot. If you have a plant that does stick out of your plant pot and you need some extra space, I think 28 centimeters is great. I ended up shrinking the spacing so that it was about 21 to 22 centimeters. So I would recommend that length of spacing instead. Continuing on with the pattern, take the second cord from the right as a working cord, and we're going to make our first vertical lark's head knot on the far right cord. So take the cord, go under, over, and through the right, and then take the cord under and over back through the right side. And now we're going to repeat this knot 2 more times. Taking the second cord from the left as a working cord, we are going to make 3 consecutive vertical lark's head knots on the left side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our large hole bead and we're going to thread it through the middle 2 cords here. So I'm using 2 strands of 4mm cord, but it should fit nicely within a 5mm hole because single strand is a little bit more flexible. If you are using 3-ply cord, you may need a bead with a larger hole. Now taking the anchor cords, crisscross them on top of each other, and then take the middle 2 cords. We're going to bring them up and through the hole right above. Then take the far right cord, make a half hitch knot to the right side, so through the crisscross cords and through the right loop, and the same thing with the far left cord, make a half hitch knot over the anchor cords and through the left loop. Once done, pull on the anchor cords to tighten. You'll need to pull on the anchor cords as well as the working cords underneath to tighten this nicely. Now to finish this off, take the 2 anchor cords as working cords for a square knot with the bottom 4 cords in the middle as anchor cords. Repeat these exact same daisies on the remaining 4 sides. Once the daisies are complete and the spacing right above is even and straight, then we are ready to make the basket part at the bottom with some square knots. We will be using a total of 6 cords for each of the square knots here. Taking 3 cords from each daisy pattern, so with 2 side-by-side daisy patterns, take the middle 6 cords there and make a square knot a few inches down. And now you're going to connect the rest of the plant hanger posts together with this square knot all around. Once the other square knots are made, we're just going to turn the pattern around and finish off that last square knot at the back. And then now, skipping another few inches downwards, we are going to make another row of alternating square knots all around. Lastly, we are going to use our 60-centimeter long cord for a gathering knot. Now to make sure that everything is nice and even without any scrunched up cords, you'll pull on the bottom vertical cords. And then once you're done, you can trim off all of the excess cords from the gathering knot and the fringe at the very bottom.
And that concludes our 5 daisy pattern projects. I want to hear from you guys which one out of the 5 you guys enjoyed making the most. Let me know in the comment section below. The daisy knot patterns used in all of these projects are vertical knot patterns, which means they are senet-like patterns which go down vertically. I am planning to incorporate a more horizontal daisy knot pattern, which means we're going to see more than just one column of daisy knot patterns within a macrame project, such as a wall hanging or a macrame bag pattern. If you guys are interested in that, make sure you stay tuned for more by liking this video and also by subscribing to our channel at Bochiknot Macrame. For more advanced macrame knotting techniques and macrame patterns, you can find me over on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Bochiknot. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.